So tonight we went out to the theater to see a movie called Locked, starring Bill Skarsgård and Anthony Hopkins. This was not directed by Sam Raimi, more on that later, but it was directed by a guy named David Yarovesky, who directed Nightbooks, Brightburn, and The Hive. And this is about a guy who is, we'll say, just down on his luck. He's um, an impoverished young man who has a car issue. His car has had his alternator fixed. He can't afford to pay for it. And so he's having problems with his daughter and the baby mama drama.
Yes.
And, he's trying to do anything he can to get the funds necessary to get his car out of the shop so that he can be a better daddy. He misses picking up his daughter, and of course, this creates a big dramatic moment between him and his ex, and he's trying to get his shit together, but it just doesn't seem to get together. And so he starts, looking and trying to boost a car, or at least I don't think he is intending to steal a car. He just wants to get
No.
into a
Yeah.
car to see what's inside of it so he can sell it. But oh boy, does he pick the wrong car to try and rob. So he tries handle after handle. Finally, this very nice car he comes across, he tries the handle of. It's open. He gets inside. Oh, and he cannot get out. And a voice comes over the intercom telling him just that. You broke into the wrong car.
Yes.
Now, this kind of plays out like a longer form of a saw trap, sort of. It's not as intricate or as immediately dangerous as a saw trap. It's kind of like a saw trap.
Like a slow-mo saw trap.
Almost like Adam's fate at the end of Saw 1, just kind of being locked in a room and forgotten. So there is that, but this is more of like a slow torture than self-inflicted quick torture. So what'd you think?
I thought it was a pretty good movie. It was overall pretty thrilling. I think the performance, it's a very intimate film. Obviously, when you deal with like a single location like this, there's always like, the main actor kind of has to carry everything. But I think that there's also some variation on that location and different things that happen that make it interesting. I felt like everything that he did as far as like character decisions in, believability, like what would somebody do in that situation. I thought that they were pretty good choices. I didn't really have any issues with anything there, which I think for a lot of people in a movie like this, it's like, oh, well, I would have done this. And, that kind of always happens with viewers. But I think overall, everything that was done made sense and was, as smart and as feasible as possible. So yeah, I liked it overall.
Yeah, the movie mostly just kind of becomes moral grandstanding
Yeah.
between the two characters. One's trying to like teach the other one a lesson,
Mm-hmm.
and his logic is extremely flawed, and he's a huge fucking hypocrite. Um, and so that's a fun thing to kind of dissect throughout the film, to point out the hypocrisy and to see where their opinions lie, and what drives them to do what they do, and kind of figuring the characters out as you go along. And there's like some points that either one of them make that I'm like, okay, and then other points they make where I'm like, no,
Yeah.
no, 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 no. So no one's like perfect or squeaky clean. There's not like a perfect villain and a perfect hero in this. They're both flawed, but one's much more flawed than the other. Um, Now that's a very American thing.
Mm.
This is a remake of a movie called 4x4, which I have not seen. I am curious on if that one's a little more ambiguous with who the
Mm.
villain is, because even though they do make our protagonist flawed, he's like an American flawed. It's not that flawed. He's just kind of like, this guy who doesn't have it all together, and he's kind of really just trying to make ends meet, and the world's against him, and he's trying to do the best with what he's got, and that's led him astray. And there's a lot of arguments back and forth between them about the system and how things play out for the rich versus the poor,
Yeah.
and everyone having the same starting, being at the like the same starting line,
Yeah.
which is pure nonsense. Um, so there is a lot of that kind of back and forth. The movie has some repetition to it to a degree.
A
The
bit. Yeah.
pacing for it in the beginning, I think, once we get things moving, and you'll know what I mean when it gets there, I think the movie has a nice change of pace that
Yes. Yeah.
then the movie flows better. But before that mark, it is a tad repetitive. And then I was looking at my watch like, oh shit, like this is only 45 minutes in. I thought we were like an hour plus. I think I was like kind of shocked by that. And then once
Yeah.
the movie started like really going, I was like, oh, okay. And I never really felt the time again.
I think
Um,
that's fair. The pacing
hmm.
is a bit slower in the beginning.
Yeah. And, some of the dialogue can be eye rolly at times.
Mm.
And I think there will be people who are very annoyed by these characters
Yes. Yeah.
and don't connect with them, and find this to be a bit forced, because the film is extremely like one dimensional in my opinion, and pretty straightforward, and the dialogue is very on the nose, right? You can totally tell the kind of message that they're going for here. They're not really hiding that. Like one side is clearly one way, and the other side is clearly supposed to be a stand-in for another, political party, so to speak. Um, and I don't know, it definitely could have used a rewrite for it to be a little more clever
Mm.
with its message. But for the most part, as I said, it really is just kind of a series of events, one thing after the other, very straightforward. And the end is just very quick, and it's just like boom, 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 and you're like, oh, okay, we're just done, okay,
Yeah.
and which is fine. I mean, not everything has to be uber complex,
Yeah.
right? So yeah, it's fine. It's a one time watch. It's good. It's a fun little thrilling movie to turn your brain off, have a decent time in the theater with some friends. Or I don't know if you'd need to go to the theater for this one. I would say watch it. If you're like excited for it, then check it out in theaters. If you're kind of on the fence about it, I'd probably wait for streaming. I don't think this is something you need to go out and shell. Some people spend up to $25 at the theater depending on where they're at. We have AMCA lists, so we can see 3 movies a week, for only $20 a month. So we kind of just get to go see whatever. But other people pay so much money. It's like you really got to be
Yeah. A little bit more
picky
frugal and yeah,
about what you see. And
choosy.
this is definitely not one to like rush out. If you're going to see something this weekend, go support Ash,
Yes.
which is a much better film in my
Yes.
opinion. But
I agree. Yeah.
yeah, and okay, couple things. Number one, Anthony Hopkins in this. He
Oh,
mostly
he's
is over the phone. He is a sadistic piece of shit in this for sure.
yes, he is.
It was interesting to see him play a villain again,
Yeah.
because obviously Hannibal Lecter being one of his iconic roles, and
Yeah.
then Fracture with Ryan Gosling is another villainous role for him, and he's played a villain here and there. He plays both very well.
He does. I
Mm,
thought he was really scary in this, and I think every time I see him as a villain, I'm always like, I don't like it. I think he does a great job at it.
yeah. But the thing that was kind of making me laugh a little bit is that I kept leaning over to Kelly and being like, "This sounds like Paddington, who's kidnapped
Yeah,
somebody."
we were laughing
Like
at it in the beginning
if
for
you were watching
sure.
a Saw movie, and instead of Billy the Puppet coming on the screen, it
It
was
was
Paddington.
Paddington. Yeah,
That's what it sounded like. And
it
then
was funny.
funny little side story. This is probably going to make me seem like an asshole, but we were walking out of the theater, and there was only 3 other people in the theater that were a group as a family, a dad, mom, and his son. And they were like back and forth going like, did Sam Raimi direct this? And the one was like, yes. And the other one was like, no. And I was like, no, Sam Raimi did not direct this. And then this got a dialogue struck up between us. And the kid was like, he was like, Evil Dead. And I was like, yeah, that's Sam Raimi. And then the dad tried to say something. And then the son was like, in 1918? And I was like, you mean 1917? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, that's Sam Mendes. And he's like, oh. He's like, I think you and I. And then he said something else, and I had to correct him on that as well.
Mm.
And then he was like, I think you and I should have a movie trivia contest. And I was like, you've been wrong about literally every single thing you said, pretty much. I've had to correct you on everything. And then your immediate reaction to that is to challenge me to movie trivia? That would not be my reaction if I was wrong multiple times in a row and the guy who I was wrong with immediately had the answer instantaneously. I'd be like, okay, I'm sorry. I obviously don't know anything and you are a genius. That's how I would feel. I'd feel like a dipshit. I would not try.
I think he was trying to be friendly, but I also was in the bathroom for like 95% of this interaction.
My elitist asshole self came out, I guess, because I felt it was very funny and ironic that he was trying to challenge me to movie trivia after being wrong about so many things. And I was like, you know who you're talking to, bro?
You know who I am?
I'm Cinny, bro. I'm Cinny Simina. Simina. Cinny.
Simina.
I don't. It was a funny interaction. He was like, I was a dick. I was a bit of a dick because I said something like, that wouldn't go very well. And he was like, for you or me? And I just kind of looked at him and walked away. That was a dick move. So I'm the asshole. Is really what it is.
Asshole there. He's gonna tell this story and be like, "There was this asshole at the movie theater."
100%.
I was just trying to be nice and talk about movies with him, and he was like,
it was the way he was saying. You know how it is. If you're there, you can hear the inflection. You can hear the intention behind the things. He was like, "It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I was the asshole. I'll take it." But I just thought it was a funny.
We like to include our movie theater experiences when we go, if
they
happen.
I know better than to ever talk about it in the beginning, though. You always got to talk about it at the end, because if anybody's still stuck around at this point, they care on what we have to say. Yeah. Right. Anyway, so movie trivia between him and I coming soon. Just kidding. All right, let us know if you see it. See you in the comments.
Bye.
He's gonna find this review.
100%. He's probably one of our subscribers, babe.
Oh my god.